An easy way to ensure you're listening is to ask questions to make sure you're understanding and working off the information the speaker is trying to send. Try summarizing what they said and asking if it's fair to say they're concerned about X. This checks your interpretation and shows that you are listening. It helps to build trust between the listeners and speaker by affirming the speaker's statement and concerns, making sure you understand these without wanting to kill someone. Hey everyone, it's Jess. As you can guess, I'm here to offer a framework to talk about politics in a way that doesn't result in mental murders left and right. I need to emphasize before we start that this is a method targeting determining the goals of the conversation and ensuring that the goal is achieved at least on some level. While the focus here is on policy, there are a lot of steps to do before we get there. There are multiple sides of a given issue that need to get behind or will say okay to this policy. And this is by no means expected to work for every single issue in every instance. With all that out of the way, let's dive in. There are 5 steps. The first 2 are interchangeable, but I put them in the order I prefer to use myself. Step 1, setting your ground rules. These will change depending on how many people are in the room and how you're communicating. Whenever you're talking one-on-one, then your rules will probably include taking turns and not interrupting each other. It's a good idea to ask who's comfortable doing research as you go and who isn't. It's also a good idea to see if there are any words you would like not to be used for whatever reason. If you're talking in a group setting, the rules should be set first whenever possible. These are mostly conduct for who speaks, when, and maybe for how long. Larger groups might want to assign a moderator, while smaller groups might want to self-regulate. A common thing I see brought up here is whether or not religion should be brought into the conversation. I plan to include this in a larger video later on, but as a rule of thumb, if it's important to the speaker, ask them about the morals their religion holds and how this translates into the policy specifically. Step 2, determine what your shared goals are. What do you want at the end of the conversation? Do you want to understand the other side or be understood? Do you want a policy made? Or even passed? What is the end goal of your policy? There may only be one shared goal, or many. If there are many, rank them and try to keep them in perspective. When things get out of hand or details are being argued over, take a breath and whenever it's your turn, ask about how this is meeting your shared goals or how it interferes with them. For this, I'm going to refer to the gun debate, aka gun rights and gun control. Both sides are all about public safety but go about it in completely different ways. Gun control wants more legislation because guns are used to kill. Gun rights activists have a key critique of this though. There's an issue in law enforcement for existing gun legislation, wherein crimes are being prosecuted at low rates compared to how often people are explicitly blacklisted from gun ownership attempting to get a gun anyway. Why add more laws when only the criminals who wouldn't listen and the law? Gun control activists want more legislation because guns are used to kill people in large numbers right now. Gun rights activists have a key critique of this. There's an issue in law enforcement for existing gun legislation where crimes are being persecuted at low rates. In this scenario, only the law-abiding citizens would be hurt, not the criminals. One compromise would be fixing law enforcement issues in the long run while installing extremely limited gun control measures targeting the weapons used at these mass shootings. These policies can work together, but everyone participating in the conversation needs to have the same goal first, not their policy first. Again, if at any point you feel any of your shared goals are being unaddressed or derailed, please speak up. I'd recommend asking more like this. Hey, I know this is important, but so is what we said we wanted to focus on. I think we're getting distracted from that with this. Is it okay if we put this down for now and focus on our shared goals specifically? It's much better than asking, how does this serve our shared goal? I can't emphasize that how we ask this question and the way we say it more so than the exact words can change the entire tone of the conversation. it's better for you to show your feelings and concerns about the goal being ignored. This shows that you care about the shared goal and the common ground that you've already built. In the first example, "Hey, I know this is important," is telling your listener that what's being discussed is still important, rather than saying, "How does this serve our goal?" The second one comes off as more dismissive. In this method, being dismissive is one of the worst things you can do. The conversation is give and take, not given throughout. The shared goals are the focus, yes, but you need to remember that you're talking to someone else that cares about the issues and these goals. It's better to affirm that whatever is happening is important than to leave it up for interpretation. Step 3 is about what you're doing with your argument and how to build it. You need to remember that the person you're talking with is already aware of the issue, and that they reasoned their way to their current stance just like you did. We tend to argue what made us choose our stance and the reasons behind it step by step. The thing is, your listener likely has already heard it a few times, and the same story is really easy to tune out and dismiss. This is why you need to speak to your listener in their language. Use the type of reasons they chose their stance to explain how you came to yours, or how your stance aligns with their worldview. An easy example is reproductive rights as part of the abortion argument between pro-choice and pro-life. Pro-choice will often ask pro-life proponents about what programs they support or what they do to reduce the likelihood of unwanted pregnancy in the first place, preventing potential abortions as more of an attack than a genuine question. If not used as a defensive tactic or as an attack on pro-life reasoning, this can do a few things, including reframing abortion onto the broader topic of reproductive rights. Here, energy on both sides is diverted from working together by fighting one another. However, by reframing the issue into reproductive rights and asking one another they can work together to ensure that there are less unwanted pregnancies in the first place, and that when someone is pregnant they have the knowledge and resources to turn to, this results in both of their shared goals being met and a better policy overall. Step 4. Make sure you are listening. Listening is not hearing words. Listening is not looking for cracks in an argument either. Listening is understanding the words said and not said. For example, in the gun debate, no one ever says what is directly oppressing them or what they are deeply afraid of losing. You have to understand the reasons behind what is being said. Gun control activists feel guns are used as tools to rob people of the right to feel safe in public spaces, especially for kids feeling safe to go to school. They're afraid of lives being lost and want to prevent this. While gun rights activists feel that if we allow excessive regulation, especially with insufficient law enforcement, that law-abiding citizens will be oppressed unnecessarily and have their property seized by the government, all for nothing. They are deeply afraid of losing any rights, as this could later be expanded to unconstitutional extremes that could open the door for countless future horror stories that center around not being able to defend themselves against injustice and oppression. None of these are explicitly stated to my knowledge, but they are there. An easy way to check if you are listening is to ask questions to ensure you are understanding and working off the information the speaker is trying to send. Try summarizing what they said and ask if it's fair to say they're concerned about X. This checks your interpretation and shows that you are listening. It helps build trust between the listener and speaker by affirming the speaker's statements and concerns and making sure that you understand all of these. Step 5. Now that you know their concerns, address these. If the other person is worried about losing a right and they explained why, find a way to help lessen that fear and worry by directly addressing it. In some cases, this is explaining why a fear or worry, while completely understandable, is lesser than the benefits of a given policy by just talking it out and going over each part with them and answering their questions honestly. Other times it's finding ways to incorporate addressing the fears and concerns into that policy. Here's our recap. Step 1, setting your ground rules in the beginning of the conversation. And 2, setting up your shared goals that you're going to focus that conversation around. Step 3, remember to speak in your audience's words and reasoning. Step 4, listen to what they are saying and what they're saying between their words. This is the only way you can figure out how to address their concerns in Step 5. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps in any future political discussions. If you found this helpful, please check out the rest of the series, How to Discuss Politics Without Wanting to Kill Someone.